Ever thought about which parents in One Piece are actually the best and which ones completely failed? Behind every powerful pirate lies a past shaped by love, sacrifice, or straight-up neglect. Today, we're breaking down the best and worst parents in One Piece. And trust me, the last entry might be the greatest parent in anime history. Let's start with the worst parents in One Piece. Vinsmoke Judge, Sanji's father. Let's kick off the worst parents list with a man who doesn't deserve the title of father, Vinsmoke Judge. Judge didn't want children, he wanted live weapons. He surgically altered his son's DNA to strip away their emotions and turn their skin into iron. No feelings, no pain, no humanity, just soldiers in small bodies. Sanji was the failure, the one who still liked to cook, still felt pain, still had a heart. So, what did Judge do? He slapped a metal mask on him and threw him in a dungeon for years, his own son, in a cage, because he could cry. The only reason Sanji stayed human was his mother, Sorha, who took a literal poison while pregnant to counter Judge's experiments. She traded her health, her life, so her son could keep his soul. Judge never acknowledged that sacrifice once. Vinsmoke Judge is the worst dad in One Piece. No debate. Drop a L for worst dad in the comments if you think Judge deserved every bit of that raid suit beatdown from his own son. Kaido, Yamato's father. If Judge is number one, Kaido is fighting for the runner-up spot for being the worst dad ever. Kaido's entire parenting strategy was simple: break her. He chained his own daughter in a cave with 3 starving samurai and told her she would die unless she stopped idolizing Kozuki Oden. Instead of a daughter, he wanted a ruthless heir who would rule Onigashima with an iron fist, and Yamato simply refused to be that person. So he spent 20 years trying to crush her spirit. 20 years of chains, isolation, starvation, and constant threats, and she still came out the other side swinging a kanabo and calling herself Odin just to spite him. The most embarrassing part for Kaido? Yamato found her real father figure in a diary she literally dug out of the trash. She chose a dead man's journal over her living father as a role model. When that's the outcome of 2 decades of parenting, you've failed at the most fundamental level a parent can fail. Usopp, Usopp's father. Usopp is a legendary sniper riding with the red-haired pirates, living his best life on the seas with Shanks, collecting bounties and seeing the world. Meanwhile, back in Syrup Village, his son Usopp was watching his mother Banshina slowly die from illness, completely alone. People always laugh at Usopp for running through the village yelling, "The pirates are coming!" like it was just a childish prank. It wasn't. He was a desperate, lonely kid staring at the horizon every single day, praying his dad would sail back with something, anything, to save his mom. That wasn't trolling. That was a child begging the sea to bring his father home. Banshina died with a smile on her face, telling Usopp to be proud of his father. But Usopp wasn't there for a single moment of it. Not the illness, not the final days, not the burial. He's a W sniper and a massive L father. There's simply no softening that. Is Usopp a legend or just a deadbeat with a bounty poster? Monkey D. Dragon, Luffy's father. Dragon gets a spot on this list not because he's cruel or malicious, but because absence has real consequences, and Dragon has been absent in the most spectacular way possible. Luffy's bloodline is absurd on paper. His grandfather is Garp, hero of the Marines. His father is Dragon, Supreme Commander of the Revolutionary Army. That's a generational cheat code if there ever was one. But Dragon as a dad is basically a ghost story. In 17 years, there has been 0 contact, 0 check-ins, 0 anything. The one time he's physically near his son is at Logtown, where he saves Luffy from Smoker, then turns and walks away without a single word to the boy. No conversation, no acknowledgement, just wind and silence. Dragon may be out there trying to liberate the entire world, but in doing so, he completely missed his own son growing up in it. And that matters, whether the revolution wins or not. Queen, Frankie's biological father. Rounding out the worst parents list is Queen. Yes, that Queen, the dancing, virus-building, absolute chaos machine from Wano. His real name is Sign, and when Frankie was just 10 years old, he threw him off a ship because the kid was too much to handle. Imagine being so unhinged that a man who manufactures plague bullets looks at you and decides you're the problem in the room. Frankie was 10 years old and got tossed overboard by his own father like unwanted cargo that had outgrown its use. That's where the worst parents list ends, and where it gets genuinely moving, because One Piece always balances every deadbeat with someone truly extraordinary. Now let's look at the opposite side of the spectrum. The best parents in One Piece. Portgas D. Rouge, Ace's mother. Portgas D. Rouge never got a long arc. She barely got any screen time at all. But what she did in that brief window is one of the most powerful acts of love in the entire series. To protect Ace from the world government's relentless hunt for Roger's bloodline, she used sheer willpower to keep her child in her womb for 20 months. 20 months, twice the normal time. Her body gave out completely the moment Ace was born. She never got to raise him, never got to speak to him, never got to see who he would become. All she left him was her name and the fact that someone loved him before he ever took his first breath. Ace spent his whole life resenting his biological father Roger and questioning whether he deserved to exist. But he wore his mother's name like armor, Portgas D. Ace, because even a woman he never met once loved him more fiercely and completely than most people ever get to experience. That's Rouge's entire legacy, and it's enough. Belle Mer, Nami, and Nojiko's mother. Belle Mer wasn't supposed to be anyone's mother. She was a Marine who stumbled onto a battlefield broken and ready to give up, and found two tiny orphaned girls clinging to each other, and suddenly had a reason to keep going. She was broke, genuinely broke. She survived on tangerines so her daughters could have proper meals. She scraped together every berry she had day after day just to keep them fed, clothed, and loved. When Arlong arrived and gave the village a brutal choice, pay up or die, Belle Mer ran the numbers. She didn't have enough to cover herself and both girls. She could have told Arlong she had no children and walked away with her life completely intact. Instead, she spent her last coin on her daughters and looked Arlong dead in the eyes. "I have 2 daughters." She chose to die as a mother rather than survive as a stranger. Bartholomew Kuma, Bonnie's father. Kuma isn't Bonnie's biological father. Her mother was Ginny, the woman Kuma loved more than anything, who was kidnapped by a celestial dragon and never truly came home. Bonnie is the heartbreaking result of that tragedy. But Kuma never once let that define how he saw her. He raised her as his own without hesitation, traveled the known world searching for a cure to her illness, and when every medical option dried up, he went to the one place no sane person would go. He made a deal with the world government. He surrendered everything: his memories, his personality, his free will, his sense of self. Piece by piece, visit by visit, he allowed them to hollow him out and turn him into a mindless government weapon. Every piece of himself he gave away, he gave for her. By the time Bonnie finally found him again, there was nothing left of the man who raised her. He had erased himself completely so she could have a future. Kuma is the quiet goat of One Piece parenting, and it honestly isn't close. Tom, Frankie's real father figure. Remember Frankie, the 10-year-old thrown off a ship by his biological father like he was nothing? The man who actually shaped him into who he is was Tom. The legendary fisherman shipwright who took in a discarded, wild, completely chaotic kid and gave him the one thing he was desperately missing: purpose. Tom taught Frankie that a man should be proud of the ships he builds. He gave him a craft, an identity, and a reason to care about something bigger than just surviving. And when the authorities came for Tom over the ships he'd once built for Gold D. Roger, he didn't run or throw Frankie under the bus. He protected him, stood his ground, accepted every consequence, and went down with his head held high. Frankie went from a kid tossed overboard like garbage to the fearless, hard-boiled shipwright of the Straw Hat Pirates because one man decided he was worth showing up for. Whitebeard, father to thousands. And then there's Whitebeard, 0 biological children, 50,000 sons. Every single person who sailed under his flag was family, not in a casual crewmate sense, but in the "I will burn the entire world down for you" sense. When Ace was captured and the world government set his public execution, Whitebeard didn't sit back and calculate losses or protect his territory. He mobilized his entire fleet and sailed straight into Marineford, knowing full well what waited for him there. He was old, he was sick, multiple serious illnesses were already eating away at him. He knew with absolute certainty he wasn't walking out of that war alive. He went anyway, because that's what you do for your kids. He died on his feet, completely upright, covered in wounds that would have killed any other man 100 times over, making sure his children had a path to escape. Not one step back, not one retreat. Just an old man refusing to let his son die, believing he wasn't worth fighting for. Compare that to Big Mom, who has 85 biological children and treats every single one like a disposable chess piece. Whitebeard had no blood ties to a single soul and loved every one of them harder than most biological parents ever manage. He is the best parent in One Piece. It's not even a competition. Who's your pick for the best parent in the whole series? Whitebeard? Tom? Kuma? Drop your full ranking in the comments. I'm reading every single one. If you like this content, then drop a like and subscribe to be there when the next bounty drops.